Hello and welcome to GlitchCube, we're a gaming podcast, and each week we take a deeper look into the art of video games. As always, I'm Christian.
I'm Chris.
And welcome back, everybody. Thank you guys for joining us once again as we dive further into the world of games. So this week we are going to be talking about our book club game of the month for March, which was Resident Evil 6 in celebration of Resident Evil Requiem, which, I mean, looks amazing, looks really cool, but it does have some little funny, silly things with like an FBI agent that doesn't really act like an FBI agent and all that good stuff, right? But anyway, she's an analyst, okay? She's not a real agent. Everyone calm down. But speaking of Resident Evil controversies, one of the biggest controversial games that came out of Resident Evil franchise, I feel, is Resident Evil 6. Man, so many people hated on this game. Right? Like this was...
Oh, still do.
This is like the dark horse of everything. It's not just the gameplay, the fact that it's no longer scary or anything like that. It's also the logo, where people are saying it's like a giraffe getting head, right? Which
it is.
I could see it. I see it now. Like, and I can't unsee it.
It also looks like a 6-7.
Oh no. Oh no.
Look at it. Look at it closely. Does it not?
I don't want to look at it anymore now. As a teacher, I hate 6-7. I'm sorry. It's all day. No matter what. Any number
Still,
you say.
to this day?
Oh my God. Yeah. Like even today it happened multiple times. Because
I thought it was already old news.
I had students that had to make a presentation and it needed 6 slides. And I got asked so many times, they're like, hey, Mr. C, how many slides does it need? I'm like, you need to have at least 6. They're like, so 6, 7? And it was like 15 times. And I flat out was like, hey, the next student that asked me how many slides do you need, you're getting a 0. How about that for a number? And then they all stopped. But that... Resident Evil 6 definitely has gotten some flack. So we wanted to check it out, of course, right? It was the one that we both ended up avoiding for a while. And I think it's due to the hate, right? Like there were so many people that just talk crap about it and made it easy to avoid it. But I really wish I didn't avoid it when I was younger because, spoiler alert, this game was rad. I don't really care what anybody says. This game is freaking awesome. So we're going to be talking about it. We both played through it. This one is surprisingly long, too, for a Resident Evil game. There's 4 different campaigns that you can play through for those of you guys that don't know. And Resident Evil 6, what it did, which I thought was amazing, was it brought in basically everybody, which was super cool from like all of the games. So you have Leon in there, and you can play Leon's campaign, and I think he's with a new character as well, right? She wasn't in any of the other
Helena,
games.
yeah.
Helena's new for this one. Then you have Chris Redfield with Pierce. I forgot his first name. James, I think? Something like that.
Yeah, James Pierce.
James Pierce. You got Jake Mueller, which, spoiler, Wesker's son, with Sherry from Resident Evil 1. Right? Or 2? No, 2.
Not 2. Was it 2? Oh,
she's from 2.
That's right.
Yeah. And then you have Ada Wong, which Ada was solo, huh? I don't think, did she have a...
well, they so in the original version, yes, she was solo, but they included a secondary character for co-op reasons in the later ones.
Got it. There you go. Yeah, so one of the big focuses on RE6, following along the footsteps of RE5, is the co-op and also the action. There is so much action in this game. It's kind of ridiculous. It's a little goofy at times. Actually, super goofy like all the time. But I think that's part of the charm of this game. And, you know, it's a good little break, I think, from the other Resident Evil franchise games because they are just so intense sometimes. I find it hard to get through them or like to sit for a very long setting. This is one of those games where you can just like sit down and enjoy it and just keep going. And you get a pretty rad story at the end. And who doesn't love, I mean, obviously, the big monster boss battles at the end, they're great, but having 4 of those is even better. Like, I think that was really, really cool because everyone got their own unique final boss, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it made me want to keep playing because I wanted to see, like, you know, what was next.
Yeah. So there was a lot to go in. We both for sure completed the Leon campaign. So you want to jump in with that and start off with Leon? I mean, he's everyone's favorite.
And I mean, he is like the intended, I think where you're supposed to start. But yeah. So quick, because I feel like this is also kind of important. My little history of Resident Evil as a franchise, right, is that I've played almost all of them, but I've only ever beaten 2 and 3. So my history with the Resident Evil games, I've at least gotten a little bit of each game down. Before this, probably I would say a month ago, I tried to give Resident Evil 5 a shot with a buddy, and we were both kind of struggling with how the camera worked in that game, and the controls just it didn't feel right. It felt so weird, especially when you look at the old RE4 to that. You're like, man, how'd they mess up the controls like this? Like, it just felt off. And then, so I was kind of turned off by it because I was like, well, I always wanted to play like 5 and 6 because, they always kind of escaped me back in the day.
Right.
And
you're missing out on Chris Redfield, the boulder punching maniac. I mean, he's amazing.
Exactly. Like in 5, I think we got to chapter 2, so not super far. But I was like, okay. And when we were talking about Resident Evil 6, I was like, I'm always down to play a game that's like panned by fans, right? Because sometimes games like that are just not as bad as you would think. You look at Final Fantasy games, and it's like people will be like, oh, 13 sucks. Oh, 2 sucks. And it's like, they're not bad really, games. They're just they're good for what they're doing. Especially when you think about the time they came out, they made sense. 6, when it came out, it made sense when you look at the other games that were big and coming out at the time.
Well,
doesn't make sense.
The trajectory of Resident Evil as a whole up to that point, right? Like 6 does feel like a natural progression because 4 definitely went the action route. There was more horror, it was slower, but it was action focused. And then 5 comes up, and now you throw in co-op, and then a little bit more action. And so 6 is just like, yeah, let's do this, right? Like, keep going with that.
Yeah, it felt in line with what you would play, middle of the age 360 era, right? Co-op, action, Army of 2, Gears of War era, like kind of cover shooting, which you can kind of cover shoot in this, but it's very clunky.
It's very broken. And, that part I hated. I always just screw it to the cover. I was like, I'm just going to stand here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like I didn't really have too much difficulty in this game. I played it on normal because I was like, I didn't know what to expect. I was thinking like, oh, it's going to be action heavy, so it's going to be more fast paced. So I was a little worried. Okay, I'm going to play it, on a medium setting so I don't get overwhelmed. And I felt like it was actually pretty easy. I feel like some of the bosses were definitely bullet spongy, but
yeah,
I beat all of the campaigns except for Chris's. I am going to finish it just because I am curious about it. But so for Leon, right? I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but I wanted to get that out of the way because I don't want someone to be like, oh, they'd only like 6 because they didn't play all the other Resident Evils. And it's like, screw you. But I do intend to actually play all the Resident Evils. Slowly, I've been working on it, right? Because I feel like it's been an injustice not playing all these games. And I love 2 and 3. Well, I love 2. The 3 remake was it was okay.
Was not that great, but 3, the original, I do remember that was very great. 4 definitely
3 scared the shit out of me as a kid.
3 was terrifying. Nemesis scared the crap out of me. I hated that character, but I loved him at the same time. And 4, very fond memories of 4. I think 4 is definitely like where I started to really enjoy the franchise, but I think it was also because it was a little less of the stressors of the older ones, right? Like the fact that like you're constantly being chased. So like I hate Mr. X and I hate characters like that where you just can't kill them and they're always there. It's just like, okay, this is just frustrating.
Same.
And then I also hated in the originals with the like you take a zombie down, but they just come back later. right? So it
Oh, they
just
respawn.
feels,
Yeah, that sucks too.
like, so those kind of things I definitely did not enjoy. So like I started to enjoy the direction it was going with 4, and then you have like 7, which brought back some of the horror, but it still had the action element to it. And like Village is fantastic, right? Like Biohazard, Village, those ones, I really enjoy those. I haven't had a chance to play Requiem yet, but I really want to. It looks like a lot of fun. But I have watched way too much gameplay footage of that game already. So, yeah.
Yeah, my goal is to, after, finishing 6, I want to move on to 7, and then I want to move on to 8, and then eventually, hit 9. But 6. Okay. So I genuinely liked this game because I looked at it as just an action shooting game.
Mm-hmm.
I've been very much in the mood for one of these kind of games too, so that actually really helps as well. I've been wanting to play something like this, and I did not expect this game to actually fulfill that need. Leon's story starts out, and I feel like the first 2 chapters feel very Resident Evil-ish, right? Like, it does have action, but there's still very light puzzle solving. There's suspense. There's zombies possibly coming out of little corners. Like, it feels very, very close to what you would expect. And then it just breaks off from that, right? Chapter 3, it's like a shooting gallery. It changes it up. And they introduce, the big monster. Every chapter 3 always has some kind of big monster. And I thought Leon's story was pretty good. I think, like, you could almost get... when I first played it, I was like, I think I experienced the whole story. I don't need to play anymore.
Right.
But then I was like, I need to check out Ada's story, because after playing Leon's, you kind of need to play Ada's just to understand it. I mean, obviously, she's the last one you should play, but... I was just curious about it. And, Leon's character, I always like him. I liked 4. I really want to go back to 4. I think that might be the next one. But the shooting in this game was fun. I love when you click both triggers at the same time. It's like an action shot.
Oh, the quick shots were great. Yeah.
It's perfect because... if a zombie or something pops out at you, you hit that button and then you just shoot them. So it's like this gut reaction of like being startled. You hit both triggers and boom, you take a shot.
And you can quick shot any gun. Which I quick shot the grenade launcher and went, oh shit. And it blew someone up in front of me. I was like, uh-oh. Which was really great.
I love it because it's like, it just kind of works because it at least stuns them. So, like, then you can actually shoot at them. And I was like, okay, I'm digging this. And then, the limited inventory kind of sucks. I kind of wish it had the RE4, like, Tetris style of inventory. But
yeah,
this game, I almost always had a surplus of ammo. Like, I never had to worry about it, which was also a relief, right? Because I know RE4 is built around making you think you're going to run out, but then you're going to find it. Even though in the back of my mind, it still scares the hell out of me that I'm going to run out of ammo. Right. So a game where I don't have to worry about that, I was like, oh my God, I feel like a powerhouse. Like, it made me feel like Leon was this god. And I'm like, okay, I like this. Like, this almost power fantasy going on. And the overarching story in this game, it's interesting. Is it good? I think certain parts of it, I think for a Resident Evil game, like, I think there's some stuff that kind of ties things up kind of nicely from my knowledge of the other games. I think the whole family or the hidden shadow group in the background, Neo Umbrella, is kind of an interesting idea. And
the president assassination in the beginning, I mean, come on. It's perfect.
Yeah, it's an interesting game. And once you start playing the other characters, like, playthroughs, it starts making more sense, even though these playthroughs are long.
Yeah.
Each character arc is like 5 hours or so. Ada's is a little bit shorter, but still, like, it's not like when you replay Resident Evil 2 and it gets faster every time you do it because you just know where everything is. But I like that each of these stories, even though they like intertwine at some parts, they're just different enough to not make you feel bored.
Yeah.
And you know, if you go from Leon's to Chris's like full on action. Like, it doesn't even feel like a Resident Evil game. It feels more like a cover shooter where you're actually shooting at people with guns, firing back at you.
Yeah.
And you know, I feel like in the whole time I played it, it wasn't until like most of the way through his story, then you started fighting zombies instead of people.
Yeah,
So
was it
it was
the Jaro?
the
Jaro?
Yavo,
Yeah,
Javo.
Javo. Yeah.
And I mean, I think the zombie designs in this are kind of cool, right? The grasshopper leg dudes and
very insectoid.
I think this
I like the sea virus, the whole cocoon thing. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yes.
And,
I think this game had some really fun ideas. It's just I can see why some people really are mad about this game, right? Because it really is a deviation from what people expected. I mean, a lot of these horror games at the time, franchises, did this, right? Look at Silent Hill. It kind of did the same thing as well. Not as action focused, but you know, I know like Downpour, I think it was Downpour for Silent Hill became much more action focused. And it was because, you know, horror as a genre at this time during the 360 for consoles, there were good horror games existing, right? Like the Siren game on the PS3. The 360 had, I guess you can count the Condemned games, but
I guess
there was nothing.
This was also when like games like Fear were coming out, right? And
yes,
RE5 sold so well, like, and the survival horror market wasn't selling as heavily as these more action focused games. So it just makes sense that they did something like this.
I think because it appealed more to Western audiences, that it was action focused, even though it would detract fans of these franchises, it would at least pull in new people.
Right.
The problem is a lot of these games from their prior catalog weren't available on those platforms. So who was it really for? Who knows? But
that's a good point. I didn't
when
think
it
about
comes
that.
to Resident Evil,
how do you expect Resident Evil fans to react whenever they can't play the older one? It's on completely different topics. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Because it's like the 360, you know, it only had 5 and 6.
Yeah.
And, you know, the original Xbox, it had, I think it,
did it get
was
3
Code
later?
Veronica on it?
I think Code Veronica was on there.
No,
that was GameCube, wasn't it?
It was GameCube and PS2.
Yeah.
I don't think Xbox got it. I think Xbox got a Resident Evil, though. I forgot. But, so there wasn't really any kind of way to play their games. So, for people that always avoided it, they're playing these whole totally new kinds of Resident Evil. And, you know, I think for the time, maybe people would have liked it because it was action, but I don't know. It does feel different. It feels like, I don't want to say Fast and Furious because I feel like I see a lot of people make that comparison because it's,
I could see it.
You know, the big names joining up.
Yeah, I could see it. It's all about family.
It feels like it, right? Like it has those moments, but as I played more and more of this game, I started thinking like, you know, yes, the gameplay does start getting repetitive in a lot of ways, but this game is making me so interested in the franchise as a whole because I know, you know, when you think what people's opinions, I'm at the bottom of the franchise right now, right? Like, the only Resident Evil games that are looked at worse than this are the online ones, right? Like Reverse and stuff like that.
Right.
So,
if this is the bottom of the barrel,
from here.
Yeah, like, then everything else that's being rated higher is just amazing comparatively.
So, to me, I'm stoked, right? Because after I finish this, like, I'm excited to play any other Resident Evil, right? Like right now, I'm when I was playing the 4 remake, I had gotten to the lake, and then I stopped, and then with 7, I'm still pretty early, so it's like I'm excited to jump into these games now. I need to know going into them, it's not going to be as actiony as this. Like, I do need
Right.
to
Item
watch my butt.
management is important. Yeah.
But it's weird how it works. You know, I feel like if you talk to someone about 6, they would almost say, like, this would be a reason to make you not want to play the other games. But this just makes me want to play them more. Like, I think Chris is an interesting character in some ways. I know, obviously, Leon is interesting, and I know that he's in, you know, Requiem and stuff. So I know that some of these characters are in the later games, so I'm more interested in it. And, you know, a year ago, I was really interested in just playing all the Resident Evil games because it's a franchise that's always kind of escaped me. And I don't know why, because I like horror games. I just always felt like they were too fast for me. Right? Silent Hill, you can kind of avoid when you want, but this, it's like you have to actually worry about ammo. But as I'm playing more of these games, ammo isn't as scarce as you think it is. And yeah, you know, I think 6, for the most part, it's not a great game, but it's not a terrible game. I think it's just, when you look at a Resident Evil game, yeah, there's a lot of things it did that are just really different. If you look at it as just an action game, it becomes a lot better. And that's just kind of what I kept going through in my mind. I'm like, this is a good brainless shooter that I can put on at, like, you know, 11 at night. I'm just sitting there playing through a chapter and, you know, not having to focus too much on it, but it's enough to keep me pulled in. And it just felt good just unloading.
Yeah.
And so I liked it for that reason. You know, I think, like, if I had played every other Resident Evil leading up to this, like, yeah, I would be disappointed. But I don't know, this game has some funny moments. And when Resident Evil's funny, it's really funny.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing I like about it, is like their jokes are just, they're great.
They hit.
You know,
they hit really well. I mean, the fact that freaking was it Village? They call out Chris for the boulder, like they're like, "Hey,
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, didn't you punch a boulder?" He's like, "Yeah, I did." Right, like, but all serious, and he's like, "Yeah, that happened." Right, like it's like, okay, man, cool, good for you, because that was a full on like action time event. You just constantly punching a boulder over and over and over again, which is fantastic. But I really enjoyed like the action-y aspect of this, and like the fact that you can just go up and you can silent kill a bunch of zombies by suplexing them or like pushing them off a railing. I thought that was really funny. Like that kind of stuff, I absolutely loved it. Like you're roundhouse kicking zombies in the face and they're exploding into fire. Like everything about that, I was like, yes, I love this. And all the big bosses require you to actually go up and punch the shit out of them at some point. Like that is the only way to kill them. You have to go up and actually get up close and personal. And I really enjoyed that aspect. I mean, I just thought that was so much fun because it's just so absurd, right? But why not? It's just super great action. But there's a couple things in the game that kind of, like, it didn't take me out of it fully. It just made me laugh at the absurdity of it. You know, not just the fact that like you pick up a giant lightning rod and shove it through a zombie so that the big bad picks it up and gets electrocuted by it, right? Like that's one aspect of it. But when you play Leon's campaign, the first chapter is the prologue, right? So like you actually start off in China in like what would have been the start of the 4th chapter. Or the 5th chapter. I think it started the 5th chapter for them. But you play through that whole prologue, and then you end up doing that scene all over again, except for it's slightly different. So like the first time we play it, like you're hurt and you're like dragging her through and all this stuff, right? And it's just like kind of slow and it feels very Resident Evil-y. But then you replay that same exact scene again, and you're both just running through and beating the crap out of everything. Right? Like, I thought that was kind of weird that you played this prologue twice, or this scene twice in Leon's campaign, except for they both played very differently. So, I don't know why they chose to do that, because like, why make you play it the first time anyway? Right? Like, it is kind of weird to have it be completely different the second time. And then another one that really stood out to me is actually in Chris's campaign. So, chapter 2 is a flashback. where you end up meeting like
Mhm.
Jake and Sherry for the first time. And in the flashback, you unlock the shotgun, right? But apparently Chris had such a hard flashback that he remembers a shotgun into existence. Because when you come back in chapter 3 from that flashback, you get all your memories back and you have a shotgun in your hands. Like, you did not have that before in that area. So he just remembers a shotgun into existence. So, like, it's moments like that where you're like, that's silly as hell, but it just made it that much better. And gosh, I really did enjoy a lot of the scenes in this game. I thought it was great. I don't know. There's just something really special about it. And I think there's two ways. I think honestly you can play it any way that you want, right? As far as like chapter selects or character selects. Like,
Mhm.
because you went kind of all over the place, right? You went Leon, then Ada, then Jake, and then Chris,
Jake,
right? And I went from top to bottom as far as the list goes. I feel like that's kind of the intended route because they get a little more absurd as it goes on as far as like action focused, where Leon
Mhm.
is more like kind of Resident Evil still-ish, right? But then it gets heavy action. Then Chris gets a little bit more action focused where it's like you have a full military team with you the whole time, which I thought was pretty cool. And then Jake's is just like, dude's a badass, right? Like he's just suplexing giant zombies and stuff like that. Like it's action heavy. And then Ada's is a nice wrap up because her story intertwines with everyone's and kind of gives you all of the things that you did not see in the background, right? And it just ties all the stories together. So I would say like recommended if you do want to go into this, go from top to bottom or start with Ada's and then go through everybody's, right? If you really want to know what's happening in the story from the beginning, Ada's storyline kind of tells you everything, right? There are some pretty big spoilers and things like that in her campaign, but it's just so good. Yeah, I know. I really I just can't believe how surprised I am and how much I really enjoyed this because I really expected to not with how much people hated on it. But it totally, like you said, it totally makes sense as far as the natural progression of things. And it is a perfect little like mindless game. Like you said, like play a chapter or two and you're good, right? But it's not so mindless that you forget that you're playing a Resident Evil game, right? And it it's kind of like the combination of just how all of the craziness of just the concept of the Resident Evil games, right? Like all of these people should be dead, right? Or infected or whatever it is. And technically they are, but there's like everyone for some reason has an antibody to either this TVWC, whatever the fuck virus is currently in the game, right? Like there's always that. And that's what's going to end up saving the world, right? And it is kind of funny. I do like that in Requiem they do kind of bring that up, right? Where like Leon is kind of dying now, right? But this one even showing Sherry getting stabbed through the chest or the back at one point, and then she just like auto heals, and you're like, oh, okay, right? Because realistically, she's this little girl. Like you don't think that physically, you don't think that like, oh, that they can deal with this kind of stuff, but then you realize, oh yeah, they're infected too, but they're fine, you know? So like the Resident Evil franchise as a whole is absurd. It is ridiculous. So I don't understand why so many people hated on this one for the craziness of it because the whole franchise has been just batshit crazy. I mean, look at the Nemesis character in 3. Like, that's insane. Or, like, look at Wesker, the way he grows. Or even in 4, a beloved franchise, like, the giant fish in the lake, right? Like, the freaking, like, his general person that taught him, I forgot that general's name or whatever, but, like, him becoming, like, a weird metal knife bird. You know, like, Resident Evil has always been kind of crazy absurd. There's always been a crazy giant animal that you fight. Even in RE2, you fight a giant crocodile in the sewers. Right? Like it's always been over the top. So it's
I think this wasn't scary. I think that's really what people wanted.
Yeah.
I mean, think about everything after 7, 8. Like they all have moments of like suspense. And like this game, I think Leon's story of all of them had the most suspense But after Leon's story, it really does become, an action shooter. But
well, I feel like it's kind of the reward, right? Because the same thing happens to the other games as like new game pluses.
Yeah. I just think some of the areas are too long. Like, that's something that when I was playing through Chris's, it just felt, even with Jake's too, I just felt like some of these like shooting galleries would just go on too long. And I understand like it needs to kind of happen to pad it out a little bit, but when each story is like 5 hours long, I'm like, cut these missions in half.
Yeah.
And like, I know, they're probably going to remake 5 and 6 at some point. And I'm wondering, like,
that'd be so awesome,
how well they're going to clean these up. If they clean up 6, I'm curious if they're going to change anything to it, right? Because maybe they would actually, like, they would keep the story and like some of the absurdity to it, but they probably would maybe have more suspenseful moments, because it's coming. They're going to remake both of the games.
Yeah, eventually.
And I'm curious, like, when it comes to 6, what are they going to do? And I think keeping the co-op is a great idea. And the story, I think, is compelling enough. So it just comes down to, like, are you going to make, say, Leon and Ada's stories more suspense and, like, survival based, and the other two more action? Because I haven't seen too much of Requiem, but I know that's how people look at, Leon's is more action focused, and the girl is more, survivability. And I think if
there's so many times in that game where you get a gun with one bullet, where they're here's the Requiem, it has one bullet, go. It's like, oh crap.
I think that's what they would have to do to the 6 remake. Like, you'd have to make it so, like, 2 of the stories would be totally different play style wise than the other. And I think
they would have to shorten it, and you would have to go like intertwined, right? So like you play the first chapter of Leon's, and then like you end up running into Chris and Ada, but then it shows like then now you're playing as Chris, right? Like I think that it would have to jump back and forth like that in order to be successful. I don't think that this whole like play through 6 hours of this one character, then now go play through 6 hours of the next character would work anymore. I think it needs to be like 1-in-1, like they did with Requiem. I think it would work better that way. Yeah. But no, I'm excited. I'm all for that. I would play a Resident Evil 5 and 6 remake real quick. No problem. Because that would be so much fun. But yeah. Anyway, definitely will say this game surprised both of us. It's huge, right? This is actually a lot of fun playing through those. And we're kind of following the same suit for the next game that we're going to be playing through for April. We have the announcement right now for our April game of the month. And we are going all the way back to 2004. Oh boy, here we go. We're going to be playing Lord of the Rings, The Third Age. And for those of you who don't know this game, which I'm sure a lot of people probably haven't heard of this game, to be honest, it is kind of, best way of putting it, Final Fantasy X, but Lord of the Rings. What can go wrong, right? I believe it was on GameCube and PS2. Was it on Xbox? I don't know if it was. I think it was just on those ones. But yeah, this game...
it was all the consoles and Game Boy Advance, huh?
It was on Game Boy Advance?
Yeah.
How is this on Game Boy Advance? I want to play that version. Anyway, this game, what? How is that possible? Whatever. I'm very curious to check out that because it is a full 3D game. So, yeah. Oh, it's completely different on Game Boy Advance. That's hilarious. Okay, but I guess we'll figure out which version we're going to be playing through, but we will definitely be playing through Lord of the Rings, The Third Age, and checking back with you at the end of the month with this one. But I think that's going to do it for us this week. Hope you guys have enjoyed this little conversation here into Resident Evil 6. Go out and play it. It's a lot better than you think. But just, turn your brain off and lower your expectations and just enjoy the ride. And go suplex some zombies, man. And we'll talk to you guys next week with some more games and all that good stuff. But until then, bye for now.